Some common barriers to communication. Interpretation of semantics. Words and terms may have multiple meanings. Just to give you an example, in USA, the word thick, if we say that he is thick, it is considered as a praise. He is like a strong build. But if it is spoken in UK, that if someone says he is thick, it's kind of an insult because it means that he is stupid. So you can see that the same word is conveying two different meanings and almost opposite meanings. One is kind of a praise and another is kind of an insult, and which is opposite of praise. Similarly, we have in Oman, the word in Arabic is marra. The marra is once, the meaning is once. But if you go into Nizwa side or so, one person says marra, it means excellent. So you can see that it can convey a different shade of meaning and it may lead to miscommunication. The next is selective seeing. See only what one wants to see. Some people have the tendency to see only what they want to see and remain blind to other information unfavorable to position they take. Similarly, selective seeing. Some people hear only what they want to hear by screening out information that may seem threatening to them, thus limiting their ability to appreciate different perspectives and points of view. Others in conflict may want to understand only that which allows them to pursue their own self-interest. Emotional barriers. Sometimes people's attitude and feelings may be so strong that they impair their understanding of what is being conveyed. Generally, personal biases will distort the understanding of what is being communicated. So if you may see that these three things are almost similar: selective seeing, selective listening, emotional barriers. Quran says, for example, about the kuffar of Makkah, that summum, about them, that summum bukmun umyun, that they are deaf and dumb and blind. Basically, they were not deaf and dumb and they were not blind, but they were not listening, they were not seeing what the message is, and they don't want to hear what was divergent to their own opinion and self-interest. So this is basically the same thing. These are the barriers to communication. Techniques of communicating. Know what you want to say and say what you mean. This means that avoid noise or meaningless sounds, pointless statements, and inconclusive remarks, which are often used by some people to impress others and not to express themselves. This clearly means that one has to speak straight when it is an official communication. It doesn't beat around. You don't have to beat around the bush or something like that. You have to be clear. Know the audience, tailoring to the receiver's frame of mind, belief, background, attitude, experience, and vocabulary. If you know the audience, of course, you have to tailor your speech or communication according to that. For example, if I am going to talk about renewable energy to grade 10 students, I would talk in the way that they understand at their level. But if I'm talking to some professionals about renewable energy, its benefits, etc., or some other issues like, for example, operational problems, etc., I will be talking to their level. So you have to know the audience to which you are talking about. Skill retention. Engineering managers should try to appeal to the receiver's interest, anticipate and overcome emotional objections, which means fear, distrust, and suspicion. Talk to the receiver's terms and lead from the present to the future, the familiar to the unknown, and to the agreeable to the disagreeable. So getting understanding is actually leading the exchange from present to future, familiar to unfamiliar, and agreeable to disagreeable. Get retention. Repeat the ideas. Rule of 4. The rule of 4 states, before trying to get an idea across, tell your receivers what you are going to say what you want to say, tell them what you said, get them to tell you what they have understood. So if I may repeat the rule of 4, before trying to get an idea across, you have to say that I'm going to tell you a very important thing, then say it, and then repeat it, and finally ask the person what he or she has understood. So getting feedback. And get feedback also asking questions. And we talked about getting open-ended questions which do not have clear yes and no. And get action to enhance communication. Creating understanding is what communication is all about. Engineering managers need to practice asking insightful questions, conveying messages clearly, and listening attentively so that understanding is created at each and every communication endeavor. The next topic is how to motivate. We said that one of the activity of leading is motivation, which is one of the most important one. Motivation can be done by inspiring, by encouraging, and sometimes you have to impel also. So inspiring means infusing a spirit of willingness by work done, leadership traits, and your own examples set. Encouraging, stimulate through praise, approval, and help. That is, you motivate your subordinates or your colleagues. And impel is using some kind of a force by coercion, compulsion, or even sometimes punishments. Techniques to enhance motivation. Participation. Invite employees to take part in setting objectives and making decisions. We have talked about this earlier. Management by objectives. Management by objectives is that the manager sits with the employees and they set the objectives together, and it also helps to get the feedback later on. It's very important to see the progress, and it also motivates the employee to work towards the objectives. Communication. Set clear standards and keep expectations reasonable. Recognition. Give credit where it is due. Sincere praise tends to promote further commitment. Fair appraisals induce employee loyalty and trust. Delegate authority. Trust the employees and do not over-control them. Achievers will seek additional responsibilities and security seekers will not. Delegate what to do and leave how to do it to the individuals. Delegate technically doable work and only to those who want it. We have talked about decentralization, and this is actually delegating the authority, and this results in motivation. Reciprocate in trust. Show interest in the desired result to motivate employees to achieve these results. And we can motivate by addressing the unsatisfied needs by Maslow need hierarchy model. Maslow hierarchy of needs is a motivational theory in psychology comprising a 5-tier model of human needs, often depicted as hierarchical levels within a pyramid. From the bottom of hierarchy, needs are physiological need, which is food and shelter; safety need, protection from threats and danger; social needs of peer acceptance and group affiliation; esteem need, which is ego and recognition; and finally self-actualization, which is the self-development and realization of own potential. Now, what are these? According to Maslow, the basic need of any person is physiological need, which is of food and shelter. Everybody would like to have, or would need food and shelter to survive. When this need is fulfilled, according to Maslow, then the next higher need arises, and that is safety, which is protection from threats and dangers. Then the next higher need is social need, which is giving and receiving affection, group membership, and acceptance by peers. These 3 needs are considered as basic needs. Then once these 3 needs are fulfilled, then the next higher need which arises is esteem needs. Esteem is ego and self-confidence to achieve recognition. Esteem, some people, when their basic needs are fulfilled, then they would like to be, they have this esteem need, which means that they would like that people like them, and also they started praising themselves as well, liking themselves or praising themselves, as self-esteem as well. The more in their talk, I will come, I did this, I did that, I was behind that project, I instructed them, I did that, it is my opinion which was taken, etc., etc. So esteem need is there, in which a person is aware of his importance, and he also like that people praise him and give him importance. After this need, the final highest need is self-actualization, which is the continued self-development and realization of one's own potential. So this means that if a person, for example, is a professor, he would like to explore his full potential. He would like to see himself as the best professor in his field, in his area of research. He may have 300, 400 technical papers, maybe 6 or 7 books written, etc. People, his peers and colleagues, call him for lectures, invited lectures, and so on. So this is kind of a person would like to see himself at the top of his field. Similarly, if a person is a musician, he would like to get Grammy Award. A person who is an artist would like to get Oscar Award. Similarly, if a person is a scientist, he would like to get Nobel Peace or Nobel Award, etc. in science. So this is kind of a need that one like to see his fullest potential. If a person is a minister, he would like to become prime minister. If he is prime minister or president of a country or a king of his country, he would like to see that his name is even remembered in history. So according to Maslow, this esteem and self-actualization needs are never fully satisfied. Here I would like to point an interesting observation. Sir Dr. Muhammad Iqbal, a great philosopher and thinker of 20th century, gave the concept of Khudi in his Urdu and Farsi poetry. Khudi, according to him, is self-actualization of God. So if I may say that the self-actualization of Maslow in hierarchy of needs model is knowing of one's own being, then in Iqbal's Khudi it is transcendental and beyond oneself. It is actually recognizing of the supreme being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here are some few points of Maslow hierarchy need model. A higher level need only arises when lower ones are already satisfied. A satisfied need no longer dominates the individual's behavior. The next higher need takes over. We discussed that already. The basic need is physiological. When this is fulfilled, then the next higher need, which is security, will dominate the individual behavior and will motivate him. And similarly, the next higher need is safety, and so on and so forth. According to Maslow, an unsatisfied need acts as a motivator, which is central to need-based motivation strategy. And according to Maslow, the top level needs are never fully satisfied. Now, here I would like to ask a question. Why the developing world is so behind, and why the developed world, we see that they have the best professors, they have the best professionals, they have best artists, best singers, best musicians, best scientists. Most of the Nobel Prizes in science are coming from these countries, whereas developing countries are nowhere to be seen, and especially the Muslims. Why we are lagging behind? Perhaps we might have some answer coming from Maslow. If I may say that in many Muslim countries, because of poverty, the situation is that most of the people's physiological needs are not met. So they cannot go to higher needs. That physiological, they are just on the basic needs. And even in some countries, the situation is even bad, like in Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan or Yemen, etc. People even are not secure. Their first physiological needs and security needs are not fulfilled. How come they can go to the next higher needs? However, I would like to point out that why is in, for example, Middle East, where like Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, where people are rich, their basic needs like physiological need, safety need, and the social needs are fulfilled, why can't they go to the highest needs like self-actualization? Why don't we have in Middle Eastern countries people who are best in their fields? Now this is a question one has to ask. Does this theory, do you think that it is sufficient, or we need some other sporting theory to explain this phenomenon? I leave it to you. Now, how we can apply the Maslow theory in management? We know that most organizations they give good salaries and wages, and through that physiological needs are met. Organization also have to satisfy most security or safety needs as well by giving them long-term contracts or permanent jobs. And their social needs are also satisfied by allowing interaction and association with others on the job. They go for social programs, and family gatherings and picnics are common. Retreats are common, where families go, and people, the employees also have paid holidays, and there they also do some work. Retreats are there, and their families enjoy, and get-togethers are there. So social needs are also fulfilled. However, esteem and self-actualization needs are not given adequate attention. But some organizations, they provide letters of recognitions and gifts to employees to recognize their contributions. The praise is made and publicly, and so on and so forth, to acknowledge their good work, etc. Now, what motivate professionals? Professionals, if we may say, are those who are like engineers, doctors, accountants, working in like white-collar jobs. They are they are motivated where the scope of self-expression and creativity is there. There is a room for making decisions and choosing methods and utilizing their own talents. Where there is independence with minimum supervision. And there's a recognition for achievements that motivate the professionals. And there are challenging works. They get motivated. And however, pay and benefits are minor motivators. Now, this makes sense. Actually, this all this comes from a management guru, or researcher. He researched about 200. He surveyed 200 professionals, and he asked questions in that. And according to him, these are the things which motivate professionals, and he found out that pay and benefits were minor motivators. The reason is this, that professionals usually have good salaries, and when they have good salaries, then their basic needs are already fulfilled, like physiological needs, security need, and social needs. So they are looking for more of esteem need, etc. So this means that they want to do some independent work, they want to achieve something, their recognition is important for them, they want a variety of challenging work, etc. That is more motivating for them.